The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with distant stars that twinkled like tiny sparks in the void. In this silence, the Zorvax dominion controlled everything. Their empire, built over centuries, ruled over dozens of star systems. They had crushed rebellions, defeated powerful enemies, and enslaved weaker species. To them, no one was strong enough to challenge their rule. Deep within Dominion space, an automated defense station floated in orbit around the barren world of Vornis 7. This station was one of many, designed to detect enemy ships long before they could enter Zorvax territory. For hundreds of years, it had remained silent. No one dared to enter this part of space without permission. Until now. A sharp alarm blared through the control room of the station. The Zorvax officers inside, tall reptilian beings with sharp ridges along their heads, turned in surprise. Their dark eyes flickered across glowing holographic screens as a single message repeated over and over again. Critical Alert. Human War Vessel detected. Commander Varkle, the officer in charge, narrowed his yellow eyes. That cannot be correct, he muttered, stepping closer to the screen. His clawed fingers tapped on the controls, running a deep scan. The station's scanners had never made a mistake before, but a human warship. That was impossible. Humans were weak. The Dominion had encountered them only a few decades ago, when the small, newly spacefaring race had first ventured into the galaxy. At the time, they had been ignored. They had no great fleets, no advanced technology, just tiny colonies barely surviving on the edges of explored space. The Zorvax saw no reason to conquer them. But now, something had changed. Varkle stared at the data. A single human warship had entered Dominion space. It moved with confidence, heading straight for an important relay station. Its design was unlike anything in the database. Its hull was sleek, its energy readings far higher than what humans should be capable of. And most concerning of all, there were no distress signals, no attempts at communication. It was coming with a purpose. Varkle turned to his second-in-command, Officer Relic. Send a transmission to High Command. Inform Admiral Vorketh immediately. We may have an intruder. Relic hesitated. Sir, it is one ship. Surely our patrols can handle it. Varkle's eyes remained on the screen, watching as the mysterious warship continued its steady approach. Do not underestimate any species that willingly enters Dominion space without fear, he said coldly, especially one that has never done so before. Meanwhile, aboard the human warship HFY Retribution, Captain Elias Cade stood in the command center of the Retribution, his sharp blue eyes locked onto the holographic display of their mission target. The ship hummed with quiet power around him, its state-of-the-art systems running smoothly. Every crew member was at their station, ready for whatever came next. Zorvax Defense Station detected us, said Lieutenant Harper from the scanning console. They're transmitting a distress signal to their fleet. Cade smirked. Let them. The Retribution was no ordinary ship. It was humanity's answer to years of being ignored, dismissed, and underestimated. Built in secret, using technology adapted from various alien species, it was faster, deadlier, and far more advanced than anything the Zorvax had ever encountered. Sir, said Commander Rains, his second-in-command, we're 5 minutes from the relay station. Should we engage? Cade exhaled slowly. This was the moment they had prepared for. The Dominion thought humans were weak, that they could be ignored. That illusion was about to shatter. Load all weapons, Cade ordered. Activate the stealth field until we're in range. Once we're there, disable the station's defenses. No survivors. The bridge was silent for a moment. The Dominion had taken countless innocent lives, enslaved entire civilizations, and ruled with fear. Today, humanity was sending a message. Lieutenant Harper nodded. Understood, sir. The Retribution surged forward, disappearing into the darkness like a predator hunting its prey. Back at the Zorvax defense station, Varkle's eyes widened as the human vessel vanished from the scanners. Impossible, he whispered. No ship could move that fast and disappear completely from sensors. Then, alarms blared once more. Energy spikes, massive ones, appeared near the station. The air grew tense. Relic swallowed hard. "Sir, the human ship, it's here." Varkle turned sharply. Outside the station's viewport, the darkness of space shifted. A massive warship emerged from the shadows, its hull gleaming, its weapons already aimed. For the first time in his life, Commander Varkle felt fear. And then the first shot was fired. The moment the first shot was fired, chaos erupted inside the Zorvax defense station. Commander Varkle barely had time to react before a powerful energy blast struck the station's outer shield. The impact sent shockwaves through the structure, shaking the control room violently. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles as warning sirens blared across every corridor. "Shields are failing," Officer Relic shouted, his claws gripping the edge of his station. "The human vessel's firepower is." A second blast hit. The station's defenses, designed to repel smaller pirate raids and minor threats, were no match for the raw destructive force of the HSV Retribution. The shield generator overloaded, sending a cascade of blue energy flickering into the void before vanishing completely. Commander Varkle clenched his jaw. "They disabled our shields that fast." His mind raced. How was this possible? No human vessel should have that kind of firepower. Had the Dominion miscalculated their strength? "They're charging weapons again, sir." Relic's voice was thick with panic. "We need tow." The next barrage slammed directly into the station's weapons array. Explosions rippled across the hull, sending debris spiraling into space. The station's turrets, still attempting to lock onto the human ship, fell silent. In less than a minute, they had been reduced to helpless spectators. Varkle's breathing quickened. He had fought many battles, crushed rebellions, and executed countless enemies of the Dominion. But never, not once, had he felt the cold touch of fear creeping into his spine like this. This is impossible," he whispered. But it was happening. Aboard the human warship HSV Retribution, Captain Elias Cade watched the battle unfold from the command deck of his warship. His expression was calm, focused. Around him, his crew worked with precision, carrying out their roles without hesitation. "The station's defenses are offline," reported Lieutenant Harper. "They're completely exposed." Cade leaned forward, his fingers tapping against the command console. The Retribution had been built for this exact mission, to strike fear into the heart of the Dominion, to prove that humanity was not weak. "Commander Rains," Cade said, turning to his second-in-command, "prepare boarding teams." Rains nodded, already issuing orders. "Sir," Harper spoke again, this time with an edge of urgency in her voice. "We've intercepted a distress signal. The station managed to send a transmission to the Dominion fleet before we disabled them." Cade smirked. Good. They hadn't come here expecting secrecy. This mission was a declaration. Let the Dominion come. Let them see what humanity had become. "Estimated response time?" Cade asked. 15 minutes before a Dominion fleet arrives." Cade nodded. That was more than enough time. He turned to Rains. "Get the teams moving. I want that station cleared before their reinforcements show up." Rains grinned, with pleasure. Inside the Zorvax station, the air was filled with smoke and flickering red emergency lights. Varkle struggled to maintain control, but the situation was worsening by the second. Then, the real nightmare began. A loud thunk echoed through the station, magnetic clamps locking onto the outer hull. It was followed by the screech of metal being torn apart. The humans were boarding. "Prepare the guards," Varkle roared. "Do not let them take the station." Zorvax soldiers rushed to defensive positions, gripping plasma rifles with shaking hands. They had fought rebels before, had executed helpless prisoners. But this was different. This was something new. Then, the doors exploded. A blinding flash of light filled the corridor. followed by a deafening shockwave. The moment the light faded, armored figures emerged from the smoke, humans, clad in advanced combat suits, weapons raised. The Zorvax opened fire, but the humans moved too fast. Their armor absorbed most of the incoming shots, their reflexes far beyond what the Zorvax were prepared for. In seconds, the defending troops were cut down. Commander Varkle watched through the station's security feeds, his hands trembling. These humans weren't just soldiers. They were hunters. "Sir," Rillick gasped. "They're heading for the control room." Varkle's throat went dry. If they took the control room, the entire station would be in their hands. He turned toward the emergency override panel. If he couldn't save the station, he could at least destroy it before it fell into enemy hands. His clawed fingers hovered over the self-destruct sequence. But he hesitated. Would the Dominion send reinforcements in time? Would his sacrifice even matter? Before he could decide, the door behind him blasted open. A group of human soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Leading them was a man in dark combat armor, his helmet retracted to reveal sharp, calculating eyes. "Commander Varkle," the human said smoothly, "I'd suggest you step away from that panel." Varkle's heart pounded. He recognized the name on the soldier's armor. Cade. The same name from intercepted Dominion reports. The same man responsible for leading human military advancements. The Dominion had dismissed him as a minor figure in a minor species. That was clearly a mistake. Varkle's claws twitched toward his weapon, but Cade's soldiers were faster. He barely saw them move before the barrel of a human rifle was pressed against his forehead. "You don't want to do that," Cade said coldly. "We have a message to send, and you're going to deliver it." Varkle swallowed hard. For the first time in his long career, he knew what it meant to lose. Commander Varkle sat frozen in his chair, his yellow eyes locked onto the human standing before him. The cold barrel of a rifle pressed against his forehead, its metallic surface chilling his skin. The station's control room was now under enemy control. His guards were either dead or held at gunpoint by the human boarding team. Captain Elias Cade stood tall, his face calm but his eyes sharp. He had the look of a predator who knew he had already won. The silence in the room was thick with tension. "You have two choices," Cade said, his voice steady. "Cooperate, and you live. Resist, and—" He glanced at one of his soldiers. The soldier tapped a button on his gauntlet, bringing up a holographic display. It showed the Retribution, still hovering outside, its weapons locked onto the station. "You already know what happens next," Cade finished. Varkle gritted his teeth. The Dominion had always believed humans were weak. Now, standing face to face with them, he realized how wrong they had been. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice low. Cade smirked. "Simple. You're going to send a message to your superiors. Tell them humanity is done being ignored. Tell them the Dominion is no longer untouchable." Varkle's jaw clenched. "You think one ship can defeat the Dominion?" Cade's smirk widened. "One ship is enough to start something you can't stop." Meanwhile, in deep space, far from the captured station, Admiral Vorkath stood aboard his command ship, Dominator, watching the incoming reports with growing concern. The Zorvax Dominion had ruled the galaxy for centuries, and no single species had ever dared challenge their might. Yet now, something was different. "Sir," an officer reported, "we received an automated distress signal from Vornis 7's defense station. But before we could send reinforcements, the signal was cut off." Vorkath frowned. "Cut off? How?" The officer hesitated. "Unknown, sir. We lost all communication with the station 10 minutes ago." Vorkath's sharp mind raced. The station's defenses were strong enough to repel small attacks, but if they had been silenced so quickly, his gut told him something was very wrong. "Deploy a battle fleet," he ordered. "I want eyes on that station immediately." A pause. Then, "Sir, new transmission incoming." Vorkath turned sharply. "From the station?" "No, sir, from the human ship." The bridge fell silent as the transmission played. The image of Commander Varkle appeared, his expression strained. "This is Commander Varkle of the Zorvax Dominion," he said, his voice hollow. "Our station has fallen." Gasps echoed across the bridge. The idea that a human ship had taken one of their stations was unbelievable. But what came next sent a chill down Vorkath's spine. "The humans send a message," Varkle continued. "They are no longer prey. They are no longer weak. They have come for the Dominion." The message ended. The bridge remained silent. Then another alert flashed across the Admiral's screen. "New QANTTTs, DGTCTED. Multiple human ships is AP growing." Vorkath's blood ran cold. Humanity wasn't just attacking a station. This was an invasion. Back on the Retribution, Cave stood with his arms crossed as his crew monitored the transmission. "And now," he said, "we wait for their reaction." Lieutenant Harper checked the sensors. "Multiple Zorvax ships inbound, sir. Estimated arrival, 5 minutes." Cade nodded. "Right on time." The Retribution was powerful, but even it couldn't take on an entire Dominion battle fleet alone. That's why they had planned ahead. "Deploy Phase 2, Cade ordered. Across the void of space, hidden human warships decloaked one by one. Each ship, equipped with cutting-edge technology, emerged from the darkness like hunters closing in on their prey. The Dominion thought they were facing one human vessel. They were wrong. Aboard the Dominion fleet, Admiral Vorkath's eyes widened as dozens of human warships appeared on his sensors. "Impossible," he muttered. "Humans don't have this many warships." And yet, here they were, a fleet of Terran vessels, armed and ready, waiting for the Dominion's response. Vorkath clenched his fists. "Open a channel to all ships. We will show these humans their place." The order was given. The Zorvax war fleet surged forward. Weapons powered up. Engines roared to life. The battle was about to begin. On the Dominion bridge, a single alert flashed across the Admiral's screen. "Critical alert. Multiple human war vessels detected." For the first time in his life, Vorkath felt uncertainty creep into his mind. Was the Dominion truly ready for what was coming? The cold darkness of space trembled as two mighty fleets faced each other. On one side, the Zorvax Dominion's battle fleet. Dozens of warships, each armed with devastating firepower, their hulls gleaming under the distant stars. On the other side, the unexpected threat. The human fleet, appearing from the shadows like silent predators, ready to strike. Admiral Vorkath stood on the bridge of the Dominator, his sharp eyes scanning the enemy formation. His mind struggled to accept the reality before him. Humanity, once weak, once ignored, now stood in open defiance of the Dominion's rule. "This is madness," Vorkath muttered. "Where did they get this technology?" His officer turned, eyes filled with uncertainty. "Orders, Admiral." Vorkath straightened. Fear had no place in battle. "Prepare all ships. The humans may have new toys, but they are still a lesser species. We will crush them here and now." The order was given. Dominion warships powered up their shields, charged their weapons, and prepared to engage. Then the first human ship moved. Aboard the HSV Retribution, Captain Elias Cade watched the Dominion fleet from the command deck of his warship. He could feel the tension in the air, the silent anticipation before the storm. His crew was ready, their hands steady at their stations. "The Dominion is preparing to fire," reported Lieutenant Harper. Cade nodded. "Let them. We fire first." The Retribution surged forward like a blade cutting through the void. Its main cannons glowed with deadly energy, locking onto the nearest Dominion battleship. "Fire," Cade ordered. A brilliant lance of plasma erupted from the Retribution's weapons, striking the enemy ship dead center. The blast tore through its shields like paper, ripping into its hull with brutal force. Explosions tore through the ship's structure, sending debris flying in all directions. Within seconds, the massive warship was reduced to a lifeless hulk drifting in space. The battle had begun. The Dominion fleet strikes back. Admiral Vorkath gritted his teeth as one of his ships exploded under the human assault. "Impossible," he hissed. "No human weapon should be that powerful." His officers scrambled to respond. "Admiral, multiple enemy ships closing in. They're targeting our command vessels." Vorkath clenched his fists. "All ships, return fire. Show them the power of the Dominion." Across the battlefield, Zorvak's warships unleashed their full firepower. Bright beams of energy streaked through space, missiles cut through the darkness, and shockwaves rippled as weapons met shields. The human fleet moved with precision. Their ships weaved between attacks, dodging enemy fire while delivering devastating counterstrikes. Their technology was advanced, but their tactics were even more terrifying. They fought like warriors who had been waiting for this moment. And they were winning. One by one, Dominion ships were crippled, their defenses overwhelmed. The Retribution led the charge, its guns never stopping, its shields holding strong against the counterattacks. For the first time in Zorvak's history, a Dominion fleet was being pushed back. A desperate maneuver. On the Dominator, Admiral Vorkath knew he was running out of options. His fleet was suffering heavy losses, and the humans showed no signs of stopping. This cannot be happening," he muttered. Then an idea struck him. It was risky, desperate, even, but he had no choice. "Order all remaining ships to form a defensive line," he commanded. "We will focus all firepower on the Retribution." His officers hesitated. "But Admiral, the other human ships, forget them." Vorkath snapped. "If we take down their flagship, we break their morale. Do it now." The order was sent. The surviving Dominion warships turned all their weapons toward the Retribution, unleashing everything they had. The Retribution's greatest test. Inside the Retribution, alarms blared as the ship was hit by a storm of energy blasts. The shields flickered, struggling to absorb the damage. The entire vessel trembled under the relentless assault. "Shields at 40% and dropping," shouted Harper. "Captain, they're focusing everything on us," Rains added. Cade narrowed his eyes. He had expected the Dominion to panic, but not to be this reckless. They were betting everything on taking down his ship. "Fine. Redirect all power to forward shields," Cade ordered. "Bring main cannons online. If they want to face us head-on, let's give them a reason to regret it." The Retribution charged forward, its cannons glowing like miniature suns. A Dominion battleship fired in desperation, only to be met with a direct counterstrike from the Retribution's main weapon. The blast ripped through the enemy ship, causing a chain reaction of explosions. More Dominion ships fell, unable to withstand the precision and power of the human attack. Then, finally, the Dominator itself came into view. "Target their flagship," Cade commanded. "Let's end this." The fall of the Dominator. Admiral Vorkath watched in horror as the Retribution charged straight toward him. His once mighty fleet was in ruins, his ships, his soldiers, his empire's pride. Gone. "Admiral," one of his officers whispered, "we have to retreat." Vorkath clenched his fists. Never had the Dominion run from a fight. But now, against these humans, they had no choice. "All ships, fall back," he ordered. "Retreat." The Dominator turned, its engines flaring as it fled. The remaining Dominion ships followed, vanishing into the depths of space. The battle was over. The humans had won. A new era begins. As the last Dominion ship disappeared from the battlefield, silence returned to the void. The human fleet remained, victorious. On the Retribution, Captain Cade exhaled slowly. "Mission accomplished." Rains grinned. "We just made history, sir." Cade nodded. "And this is just the beginning." Humanity had sent its message. The Dominion would never forget it. The battlefield was quiet now. The remains of destroyed Dominion ships floated like broken skeletons in the vast emptiness of space. Fires burned on the wreckage, flickering like dying stars. The once mighty Zorvax fleet had been shattered, forced to flee. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Elias Cade stood with his arms crossed, looking at the destruction. His crew moved around him, scanning debris, checking systems, and ensuring their victory was complete. "Status report," Cade said. Lieutenant Harper responded immediately. "Minimal damage to our fleet. We lost 3 ships, but most of our forces are intact. The Dominion, they're gone, sir. Their flagship and remaining warships retreated into deep space." Cade nodded, his expression unreadable. "They'll be back. But next time, they'll think twice before underestimating us." A message notification appeared on his screen. It was from Admiral Grant, leader of the United Terran Fleet. Cade tapped the screen, and a holographic projection of the Admiral appeared. His face was serious, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes. "Captain Cade," Admiral Grant said, "congratulations. You just won humanity's first major victory against the Dominion." Cade gave a small smile. "They ran, sir, but they're not defeated yet." Grant nodded. "No, but this changes everything. The Dominion now knows we're not weak, and every other species watching this war just realized that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." Cade understood what that meant. The galaxy had always seen humans as small players, traders, and settlers, not warriors. But today, the Retribution and its fleet had rewritten that belief. "Admiral," Cade said, "what are our next orders?" Grant's expression darkened. "The Dominion will regroup. We need to be ready. Bring the fleet back for repairs and resupply. We'll prepare for the next phase." "Understood, sir." The transmission ended. Cade turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Let's move." The Retribution's engines flared to life. One by one, the human fleet turned and began their journey home, leaving behind the ruins of the battle. Aboard the Dominion warship Dominator, Admiral Vorkath sat in his chair, his claws digging into the armrests. His ship was in emergency mode. Sparks flickered from broken consoles. Alarms flashed across the bridge, and his crew moved in frantic desperation. The mighty Dominion fleet had been defeated. "This is unacceptable," Vorkath growled. An officer hesitated before speaking. "Admiral, we miscalculated. The humans, they're stronger than we thought." Vorkath slammed his fist onto the console. "Stronger? They are insects. They should not have been able to do this." But even as he said the words, he knew the truth. The humans were not weak. They were something else, something far more dangerous. A new message appeared on his screen. A priority transmission from the Dominion High Command. Vorkath took a deep breath and activated the transmission. The image of Supreme Chancellor Xalzor appeared. His expression was unreadable, but his glowing red eyes burned with disappointment. "Admiral Vorkath," Xalzor said, "explain yourself." Vorkath swallowed hard. "The battle was not in our favor, Supreme Chancellor." "Not in your favor?" Xalzor's voice was ice-cold. "The mighty Zorvax fleet, humbled by humans." Vorkath lowered his head. "I underestimated them." Xalzor stared at him for a long moment. Then, his lips curled into something resembling a smile. "Good. Now you understand." Vorkath looked up in confusion. "Supreme Chancellor." Xalzor leaned forward. "You have seen it, haven't you? The fire in their eyes. The way they fight, not just to survive, but to win." Vorkath nodded slowly. "Yes, they are unlike any species we have fought before." Xalzor's voice was filled with dark amusement. "Then we must adapt. We will no longer treat humans as an insignificant species. From now on, they are our greatest threat." Vorkath clenched his fists. "What are your orders?" Xalzor's eyes burned brighter. "We will not make the same mistake twice. We will bring our full power against humanity. No more underestimating them. No more mercy." The transmission ended. Vorkath turned to his crew, his determination renewed. Prepare the fleet. This war is far from over. On Earth, United Terran Fleet Headquarters. In a massive war room deep beneath the surface of Earth, the highest-ranking leaders of humanity gathered. Large holographic displays showed the aftermath of the battle. The room was filled with murmurs, but one thing was clear. This was the beginning of something much bigger. Admiral Grant stood before the council, his voice firm. The Dominion knows we are a threat now. They will come back stronger. This war has just begun. One of the council members leaned forward. Can we win? Grant met his gaze. We don't just win wars. We survive them. We adapt. And we overcome. The room fell silent. Then, one by one, heads nodded. Humanity would not back down. The war has just begun. As the stars continued their endless dance, the fate of the galaxy had changed forever. The humans had proven they were warriors. The Dominion had acknowledged them as a true enemy. And now, both sides prepared for the next battle. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The humans had won their first major victory against the Dominion, proving they were no longer a weak species to be ignored. But in the darkness of space, the Dominion was preparing for its revenge. Aboard the HSV Retribution, Captain Elias Cade stood in the strategy room, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The United Terran Fleet had gathered intelligence on the Dominion's movements. The enemy had retreated, but not for long. Lieutenant Harper stood beside him. Sir, new reports from our scouts. The Dominion fleet is regrouping near the Vornis Nebula. Their numbers are growing. Cade narrowed his eyes. How many ships? Harper tapped on the console, and the data appeared. At least 3 times the size of our fleet. And they're building more. The room fell silent. The first battle had been a victory, but the Dominion was responding with full force. If the humans weren't prepared, the next fight could be their last. Commander Rains leaned against the table, arms crossed. We all knew they wouldn't take their defeat lightly. They underestimated us once. They won't make that mistake again. Cade exhaled slowly, which means we need to be smarter. We can't win by sheer numbers. We have to outthink them. A new message arrived from Admiral Grant. Cade pressed the control panel, and the Admiral's hologram appeared. Captain Cade, Grant said, his voice heavy. We have new orders. The Dominion fleet is gathering, but they haven't attacked yet. That means we still have time. We need to strike first. Cade straightened. A preemptive strike, sir. Grant nodded. Correct. We have identified a key Dominion supply station at Outpost Vexus. It's their main fuel and weapons hub in this sector. If we destroy it, we slow them down. Harper's eyes widened. Sir, that's deep in enemy territory. Grant's expression remained firm. That's why you're the best crew for this mission. You've already proven you can take on the Dominion. Now, we need you to do it again. Cade exchanged a glance with his officers. This was a dangerous mission, perhaps even a suicide mission. But if they succeeded, it could change the course of the war. Cade gave a sharp nod. We'll get it done, Admiral. Grant's face softened slightly. I knew I could count on you, Captain. Good luck. Earth depends on you. The transmission ended, and silence filled the room. Rains was the first to speak. Well, looks like we're going behind enemy lines. Harper smirked. Just another day in the fleet. Cade looked at his crew, determination in his eyes. Prepare the ship. We leave immediately. The Dominion's secret plans. Far away, in the depths of space, Admiral Vorkath stood in the command center of the Dominion's largest warship, the Revenant. His fleet was growing stronger by the day. Soon, the humans would pay for their arrogance. A Zorvax officer approached. Admiral, our forces are nearly ready. The Supreme Chancellor has approved full-scale war. When we are at full strength, we will crush the humans. Vorkath's claws tapped against the metal table. Not yet. The officer frowned. Sir. Vorkath's gaze was cold. Attacking immediately would be foolish. The humans are unpredictable. We must ensure total victory. The officer hesitated. Then what is your plan? Vorkath turned to a large holographic map of the galaxy. We let them think they have the advantage. We let them believe they can strike first. And then, his eyes gleamed, we set the perfect trap. Approaching Outpost Vexus, the Retribution and a small squad of elite ships moved through the darkness of space, hidden by the radiation storms of the nearby nebula. Their mission was simple: infiltrate the Dominion outpost and destroy it before the enemy could react. Cade sat in his captain's chair, watching the distant station on the view screen. It was heavily guarded, with multiple warships patrolling the area. Rains whistled. That's a lot of firepower. Cade smiled slightly. Nothing we can't handle. Harper checked her console. We're undetected for now, but once we attack, they'll call for reinforcements. Cade nodded. Then we hit fast and hard. No mistakes. The fleet moved into position. The countdown began. All ships, prepare to engage, Cade ordered. This is for Earth. The attack began. The first human warships unleashed a devastating volley of firepower, striking the station's defenses before they could react. Explosions lit up the void. The Dominion ships scrambled, trying to counterattack, but the humans were faster, more precise. The Retribution moved in, its weapons tearing through enemy vessels. Fighters swarmed in the chaos, dodging and weaving through laser fire. The outpost's defenses crumbled under the assault. Then, suddenly, an alarm blared. Harper's face went pale. Sir, incoming enemy fleet. It's a trap. On the view screen, multiple Dominion warships emerged from hyperspace. Dozens of them. Far more than expected. Cade's eyes widened. Vorkath knew we were coming. The humans had walked straight into an ambush. The Retribution's bridge shook as enemy fire struck the shields. The Dominion fleet surrounded them, cutting off their escape. Rains cursed. We're outnumbered. What do we do? Cade gritted his teeth. We fight. But deep down, he knew the truth. This time, the humans might not make it out alive. The Dominion warships surrounded the Retribution and its fleet. Hundreds of enemy ships blocked every escape route. Blazing red laser beams and missile trails crisscrossed the void, illuminating the battlefield. The humans had walked straight into a trap. On the Retribution's bridge, Captain Elias Cade gripped the armrest of his chair as the ship shook violently from another direct hit. Warning lights flashed and alarms blared. Shields at 40%. Harper shouted over the noise. We can't take much more of this. Commander Rains clenched his fists. We need an escape route now. Cade's mind raced. The Dominion had outplayed them. Admiral Vorkath had been waiting for this moment, setting a perfect ambush. But Cade refused to accept defeat. He had come too far to die now. All ships, defensive formation. Hold the line, Cade ordered. We're not giving up yet. The human fleet adjusted its position, fighting back with everything they had. Explosions erupted across the battlefield as human and Dominion warships clashed. Fighters zipped between the capital ships, dodging enemy fire. Despite their determination, the humans were heavily outnumbered. The Dominion's reinforcements kept coming, waves upon waves of warships. Harper's voice was filled with panic. Captain, we won't last much longer. Cade clenched his jaw. He had one last idea, one final gamble. A desperate plan. Rains, do we still have control of the reactor? Cade asked. Rains gave him a confused look. Yes, but why? Cade's eyes burned with determination. Because we're turning the Retribution into a bomb. The bridge fell silent. Harper's voice was barely above a whisper. You mean, overload the reactor? Cade nodded. We're trapped. If we can't escape, we take them with us. If we detonate the reactor at the right moment, The explosion will take out half the Dominion fleet. Rains exhaled slowly. That's suicide, Captain. Cade looked at his crew, his family. Not if we do it right. We set the reactor to overload, but then we use the explosion's shockwave to propel us away. Harper's eyes widened. That could work, but it's risky. Cade gave a small smile. Everything we do is risky, but it's better than dying here. Rains let out a chuckle. You're insane, Captain, but I like it. Cade turned to Harper. Initiate the overload sequence. Set it to detonate in 2 minutes. Aye, sir. Harper's hands flew over the controls. Overload in progress. We need to move fast. Cade activated the fleet-wide comms. All ships, this is Captain Cade. We are initiating an emergency maneuver. When you see the explosion, reverse thrust at full power. That's our only chance to survive. Trust me. There was a pause. Then, one by one, human captains responded. Understood, Captain. We trust you, Cade. Let's do this. The countdown began. 90 seconds. Admiral Vorkath's bridge. On the Revenant, Admiral Vorkath watched the battle unfold. The humans were still fighting, but they were losing. Victory was within his grasp. Admiral, an officer reported, we are detecting an energy buildup on the human flagship. Vorkath's eyes narrowed. What are they doing? The officer's face paled. Sir, it's a reactor overload. They're going to detonate their ship. Vorkath's eyes widened in shock. The humans were willing to destroy themselves just to take him down. Clever. He had underestimated them once again. The final moment. 30 seconds. The Retribution's hull groaned under the pressure. Systems failed. Fires raged through the lower decks. But Cade and his crew stayed firm. All hands, brace for impact. Cade shouted. 10 seconds. The Dominion ships moved closer, unaware of what was about to happen. 5 seconds. Cade took a deep breath. See you on the other side. 3, 2, 1. A blinding white light filled the void. The Retribution's reactor detonated with the force of a small star. The explosion ripped through space, consuming everything in its path. Dominion ships were torn apart like paper, their hulls shattered by the blast wave. The shockwave spread outward, shaking the entire battlefield. The remaining human ships, following Cade's orders, reversed their thrusters at full power. The explosion's force propelled them away from the blast zone, saving them from destruction. On the Retribution, the crew screamed as the ship was hurled through space like a missile. The hull groaned, metal bending under the strain. Cade held onto his seat, the pressure threatening to crush them all. And then, silence. The Retribution drifted in space, battered and broken, but still alive. Victory and the future. Hours later, as the surviving ships regrouped, Cade sat in his captain's chair, exhausted but victorious. Harper checked the sensors. Sir, the Dominion fleet is gone. We did it. A wave of relief washed over the crew. They had survived. Commander Rains grinned. Remind me never to doubt you again, Captain. Cade chuckled weakly. Not bad for a bunch of weak humans, huh? The crew laughed. A transmission came through from Admiral Grant. His face was filled with pride. Cade, he said, you just changed the course of history. The Dominion won't recover from this easily. You've given humanity a real fighting chance. Cade nodded, and we're just getting started. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, one thing was clear. This war wasn't over, but humanity had proven its strength, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.